Hello and welcome. So, today on the 30th lecture, that makes the 5th lecture of 6th week, let us talk about the transportation sector as far as the mitigation potential and different options are concerned. So, to discuss about this, we will talk about various concepts in terms of the transformative changes. So, what are the various transformative changes and options we have in R&D, awareness and governance sectors, and that are perhaps required in mitigation in this transport sector. We will also discuss about energy pathways for low carbon transport energy. So, what are the pathways are in offer or in are in options in terms of the low carbon transport technology. Then as far as the smart city is concerned, the smart city, what do we understand by smart city, a term, and what are the various technologies that are useful or perhaps can address minimizing the emission pattern in terms of the transportation sector. The fourth is what are the various mitigation options that enables various conditions as far as transport is concerned. And finally, we will talk about the tools and strategies for enabling mitigation options to achieve transformative scenarios. So, coming to the transformative changes that are required. So, friends, I have put here 5 points. The first is meeting climate mitigation goals require lot of transformative changes. So, what is that transformative changes in transport sector? There has been a growing awareness of a need for demand management solutions. So, there is a requirement in terms of demand management solutions that should be combined with the newer advanced technologies such as rapidly moving electromobility for land transport and the emerging options as far as biofuel and hydrogen based fuels for shipping and aviation is concerned. So, taking all these 3 sectors as far as land, water or you say shipping and aviation, the air. So, in all these sectors there are emerging options in terms of advanced biofuels. Why biofuel? Because they have lesser emissions. So, biofuel, the means of their conversion is also follow a less emittive pathways, and also the hydrogen based. So, if we go for biofuel and hydrogen based fuel, they are doing better in terms of their emission in contrast to the fossil fuel or fossil fuel based emission. So, the electromobility option for land, water and air, you say shipping and aviation are a great option, or there is a growing awareness as far as the emerging option. The third point is changes in urban form, behavior pattern and circular economy. So, or you say shared economy and digitization. So, 5 points: change in behavior pattern or the programs, circular economy, shared economy, digitization trends. All these they support the changes that could lead to reduction in the demand for transport services or can expand the use of more efficient transport modes. So, but the BEVs, the battery electric vehicles, have lower life cycle greenhouse gas emission than internal combustion energy vehicles. So, this is another very important point. So, if we compare the life cycle of the greenhouse gases, that means at what time scale it rotates or it returns to the atmosphere or it returns to the system. So, if we compare, then the BEVs, the battery operated vehicle or battery electric vehicles, BEVs, they have a low greenhouse gas emission life cycle than other ICEVs, or we say the internal combustion engine vehicles such as car and other motor vehicles. So, you have a relative advantage if you use this, because there is a lower life cycle in terms of the greenhouse gas emission. So, that is very good news as far as a very good thing to to address towards the means address and contributes towards the mitigation effort. Then the land based long range heavy duty trucks. So, we are using long range heavy duty trucks to transport the materials and goods, and they are all means plying on the roads, they are land based. So, how to decarbonize that sector through battery electric haulage, that means including the use of electric road systems. So, how to do that complemented by hydrogen biofuel based fuels in some context. So, there are a lot of emission is there. So, we need to decarbonize this sector, the sector which particularly involved in land based what you say goods and other transportation materials, transportation using heavy duty trucks, heavy duty long range trucks. Now, coming to the R&D, awareness and governance. In terms of R&D, so decarbonization options for shipping and aviation still require some more R&D efforts. So, we need to know many more things through research and development in the shipping and aviation sector through advanced biofuel, ammonia and synthetic fuels. So, they are coming out with viable options. So, we need to invest more in terms of R&D in knowing more about advanced biofuels, ammonia and synthetic fuels. Fifth, scenarios from bottom up and top down models indicate that without interventions, carbon dioxide emissions from transport could grow in the range of 16% and 50% by 2050. So, if we do not invest, if we do not intervene, then the emission will go from 16% to 50% by 2050. So, we cannot neglect this transport sector. That is why is important and has been picked for our discussion in this last week of in the last lecture of 6th week. The third point is the deployment of the low carbon aviation and shipping fuels that support decarbonization of the transport sector could require changes to national and international governance structures. So, this deployment it needs lot of changes both in terms of national and international level and in their governance sector. So, we need to come out with policies, we need to come out with incentives. So, all these are already have been discussed and we know it for sure. Then also the legislation, the law, the legal framework. So, legislated climate strategies are emerging at all levels of government and together with pledges for personal choices. They could spur the deployment of demand and supply side transport mitigation strategies. Let us have a look at the energy pathways in terms of low carbon transport technologies are concerned. So, the primary fuels, energy carriers, vehicle technologies and the transport segments. So, let us first look at the left hand side, what are the primary fuels we have in terms of the options. The biomass with or without the CCS technology, or you say carbon capture, utilization and storage. So, friends, we have not yet discussed about carbon capture, utilization and storage technology. So, this technology is used or is utilized mostly in point sources, where the emission as far as the carbon dioxide or the greenhouse gases, CO2 equivalents or the greenhouse gases emission is at a higher concentration. So, where they are at industrial source, they are mostly the industry sources in terms of the plumes and other things, or at the raw material level. So, if the carbon can be captured at the raw material level, at the process step or at the emission step from these big units such as industries, then we can take this carbon, we can stop or minimize the emission of the carbon from these sources directly to atmosphere. Instead, we can take them and put it in other reservoirs of carbon. So, the other two important reservoirs of carbon are geological storage and the oceanic storage. So, there are a lot of different storage in terms of geological storage and the oceanic storage, but the CCS technology involves the carbon capture and storage technology involves removing the carbon from these kind of dominantly emission sources such as industries and take it instead of emitting to the atmosphere, take it and put it in the lithosphere or in the geological storage or in the oceanic storage. That technology involves here. So, biomass with or without CCS is one of the primary fuels. The second is fossil fuels, again with the carbon capture and storage, because without it will release, or they would release much more. So, with CCS we can minimize a lot. And then the nuclear technology. Friends, all of us know that nuclear technology is not safe, it is risky, but it is one of the important options if utilized properly, if by respecting to the risks and the safety protocols. Then the fourth one is the renewable electric sources or electric energy. So, various sources starting from your wind, from your solar and various sources we are generating electricity. These are the renewable sources. So, from these are the four primary sources that could lead in terms of the low carbon transport technology, that the potential. Coming to the energy carriers. So, the energy carriers, as you can see, they have been linked from the biomass, fossil fuels, nuclear and renewables. Biomass fossil fuels we can take from the biomass with and without in terms of hydrogen, and then from fossil fuels with CCS, nuclear fuels and renewable energy we are taking them in terms of the electricity. So, we have the energy carrier as far as the electricity and hydrogen is concerned, and hydrogen again in terms of synthetic fuel and ammonia. So, these are the two other energy carriers originating from hydrogen fuels. Perhaps more and more R&D efforts will give us more solutions that could be useful for the shipping and aviation industries. And also directly this biomass with or without a kind of CCS intervention as primary sources of fuel, or you said the biofuels will go to the next level, that is the vehicle technology. So, let us see what are the vehicle technology we have. The first, all of us know, battery, or you say electric battery, the fuel cells and also the advanced combustion engines. So, from electricity you see the fuel cells have a connectivity from ammonia, from electricity and also from hydrogen. As far as the battery or electricity, it is directly coming from the electricity, and as far as the advanced combustion engine is concerned, where a lot of R&D also is going on, and a lot of things will come up faster, have a linkage from all four, hydrogen, ammonia, synthetic fuel and biofuels. And now let us have a look at the transportation segment. In terms of the transportation segment, we have the light duty road vehicle as we are playing in terms of two wheelers, heavy duty road vehicles, because we are thinking of options to minimize or to replace the land based large distance heavy duty trucks that mostly contribute towards the transportation of goods and materials. Then we also need to replace it largely in shipping and aviation sector, because shipping and aviation sector are also emitting a lot of carbon dioxide equivalent gases to the atmosphere. Now, have a look at the smart city technologies and transport. So, friends, we are somehow hearing here and there about these terminologies. These we put under the smart city technologies. So, as all of us know, the smart city concept. So, a city which is smart, and here in terms of what are the technological attributes. In terms of technological attributes, we use the ICT, information and communication technology. So, as we use the IoT, Internet of Things. we use the mobility as a server, we use AI and big data analytics, we use blockchain and distributed ledger technologies. So, in terms of IoTs, this IoT in terms of ICT, I am sorry, this ICT, it can help the cities by providing real time information on mobility options that can inform those using private vehicles along with transit users or those using bikes or walking. So, let us say you are looking for you can do this and come out with a shortest path to reach your destination or alternative path in terms of time and trafficking. So, you can use this in terms of the ICT that will contribute towards what you say adaptation and mitigation options in terms of the transport sector. Next to ICT is the IoT, Internet of Things. When you put lot of sensors across this, it improves the road safety and also it improves the fuel efficiency and also reduce the carbon dioxide emissions. Mobility as a service, the new app based mobility platforms will allow for the integration of different transport modes such as last mile travel. So, if you have app based mobility, then you can say that okay, you are in a hurry or what is the path at the last moment. So, share transit and even micro transit such as scooter or bike into easy to use platforms. So, you have these options. As far as the usage of AI and big data analytics is concerned, these technology are used together to enable decisions and about what kind of transport planning is used down particular corridors. So, we all know the options such as predictive congestion management of roads and freeways, simulating planning options and advanced sharing transit scheduling can provide value to new and existing transit systems. So, these kind of micro and last minute and efficient and smart management using the technology helps us in minimizing the carbon emission, thereby contributing towards mitigation in this transport sector. The blockchain or distributed ledger technology. In terms of this, blockchain technology can be achieved, can be used for many transport related applications, including being the basis of mass or any other local shared mobility. So, this uses or facilitates shared activities without intermediary control. So, these technologies make the city smarter, make the transport in the city and beyond the city areas smarter. So, we must use the latest technology to make the cities and the transport or the transport sector faster, thereby minimizing the carbon equivalent emission and thus contributing towards the mitigation effort in this transport sector. So, let us see what are the conditions, what are the options and enabling conditions as far as the transport sector is concerned. And to do this, we have picked an illustration that talks about 3 histograms and the first one is 5 years, second one is a 10 year and third one is the 15 years. And this first one is at a landscape level for 5 years, remove barriers and mainstream. Second one for the 10 years is in terms of the regime scale, a lot of policy interventions. And the third one is at a niche scale and that includes lot of R&D demonstration. So, the scale of adaptation, if you see, is given on the Z plane and that is from low to high in terms of the height factor. So, the first one, the 5 years, light electric or electromobility. So, more of the personal and freight mode. So, if you see the low and then market commerciality, medium and high. So, city and regional engagement and education programs, it is currently in terms of adaptation scale is low, whereas the integrated strategies for net zero transport, land use and energy is very high as far as the scale of adaptation. And in terms of market commerciality, procurement of partnership on government fleets, buses, EVs, taxis and tuk-tuk, share bikes and all these are are commercially available, and in terms of market commerciality they are doing at a medium scale of adaptation. But whereas in terms of the regulatory reviews on vehicles in terms of land development and energy are also towards medium to high in terms of scale of adaptation. So, it is really good thing that we have lot of progress and adaptation is very high as far as the net zero transport in terms of land use and energy is concerned. Now, let us move on to the tenure, which is in terms of the regime shift. So, travel demand and vehicle efficiency in all modes. So, medium level of acceptance as far as the regulations for each mode is concerned, strategies for each mode is concerned in terms of net zero, and as far as low is concerned, the engagement and education programs. Moving on to the niche scale, which is seen in terms of the times to deliver as far as 15 years timeline has been fixed. So, this is particularly for the heavy vehicles and more so in the shipping and aviation sectors. So, net zero targets, R&D funds from ports and companies, demonstration major ports, local engagement and education programs around the world. So, all this actually do fall under small to medium scale of adaptation, but they are put in terms of 15 years time scale to deliver, and R&D demonstration is the major challenge and options in this sector. So, this is what with respect to the mitigation options, enabling conditions for transport is concerned. Now, let us see the how using the right tools and strategies, they are crucial for the successful deployment of mitigation options. So, the various options to achieve transformative scenarios. So, first is education and R&D, then access and equity, financing economic incentives and partnership. Then the travel demand, electrification and fuel or vehicle efficiency, light vehicle electro mobility systems and alternative fuel systems for shipping and aviation. So, in terms of education sector, as far as the travel demand reduction is concerned, this can be assisted with digitalization. So, lot of digitalization and connected autonomous vehicle, EVs and mobility services will contribute to this. As far as the light vehicle is concerned, behavioral changes programs helps EVs become more mainstream. And coming to the alternate in terms of fuel for shipping and aviation large scale, and as we mentioned, R&D is critical. Coming to the next tool and strategies is the access and equity. So, as far as travel demand reduction programs like concerned, in term we need to avoid such inequalities. So, inequalities needs to be avoided. There is a need for better link to spatial and economic development, mindful of diverse local priorities and personal freedom and personal data. Extremely important point have been mentioned here, and significant equity issues with the electric vehicles in the transition period. So, the equity issues need to be addressed, and this to be overcome with programs that enable affordable electric vehicles. Currently, as the patents and everything are going to be addressed, and once it is taken care, then the electric vehicles should be cheaper, should be so cheap that everybody should be able to use this at the cost of other fancy motorbikes and other things. So, we have to think of it in terms of affordability and access and equity. Coming to financing economic incentives and partnership, the carbon budget implications of different demand futures should be published and used to help incentives as far as the net zero projects is concerned. Yes, this implication as far as the carbon budget from different futures needs to be made public, so that it will be reaching to a larger mass, and thereby the effectiveness will be better. Multiple opportunities for financing economic incentives and partnership with clear economic benefits can be assured. And then in terms of the large sectors, shipping and aviation, R&D demonstration projects is the main stage for these heavy vehicle options. Next, the tools and strategy concern is co-benefits overcoming the fragmentation. So, programs that focus on people centered solutions for future mobility with a more pluralistic and feasible set of outcomes for all people can be successful. As far as the TDR or travel demand reduction is concerned, from this co-benefit tools and strategy point of view, the SDG benefits of zero carbon light vehicle transport systems are being demonstrated and can now be quantified as the nations mainstream this transition. Coming to the heavy vehicles, yes, we know it is still in need to be demonstrated as far as the STD and co-benefits are concerned. Next important is the regulation assessment. In terms of the regulation assessment, let us see the TDR or the travel demand reduction. So, implementing a flexible regulatory framework is needed for most TDRs. So, regulatory assessments can help with potential additional security risk to what might emerge because of the digitization and or other autonomous vehicles and IoT things. So, we need to address that in terms of the regulation and assessment. And coming to the light vehicle electromobility, with zero carbon light vehicle systems, the rapidly growing means this zero carbon light vehicle systems are growing very rapidly. So, that means the need for a regulated target and assessment of regulatory barriers that can assist each city. So, moving on to the next two important points, one is governance. So, governance and institutional capacity. Second is enabling the infrastructure. As far as the governance and institutional capacity is concerned, the TDR works better if adaptive decision making approaches focus on more inclusive and whole of the system benefit cost ratio is concerned. Whereas, in terms of the enabling the infrastructure, we need to ensure, as far as the TDR sector is concerned, we need to ensure space for active transport and urban activities should be taken from road space that may be or would be necessary at some places. So, for discussing about this sector, particularly the transport sector, we have used the same working group 3 report and this chapter is concerned. And the conclusions from this discussion are: transformative changes in terms of R&D, awareness, governance are required in mitigating the transport sector. So, there has to be transformative changes. As we discussed, it needs to come from all three: R&D, dominantly for heavy sectors, particularly the water, as you say, shipping, and aviation or the air sector. Awareness: the whole of the citizens should be aware about the carbon CO2 or the net zero concept, so that they can better adapt this, and also they can shift to the low mobility or the vehicles having electric options in terms of mobility. And coming to the governance, yes, there has to be rule or legal framework to implement, execute this in terms of incentivizing, in terms of minimizing the cost, so that better adaptation and mitigation will be there. And smart cities takes care of lot of this latest technology usage to optimize and minimize the optimize the transport sector in terms of the emissivity. and also the various tools and technology and the strategies that we discuss the options in terms of mitigation. So, friends, in this week, the 6th week as far as the mitigation is concerned, the first lecture we discussed about the scenario as far as why we need to go for mitigation and what are the important sectors we need to immediately address, so that we can address to maximum of this emission. So, based on that principle, we have picked 4 sectors where perhaps our role or understanding this will help us in terms of mitigation. So, we picked the AFLU sector, agriculture, forest and other land uses. So, this is the sector in terms of the land where we all are involved, we all have a potential to contribute in terms of mitigation. So, that is why we selectively picked the AFLU to discuss with you. In the third lecture, we have talked about the energy. So, what are the different sources of energy? You are seeing here and there that we are moving towards more of the renewable energy resources, so that we have the options in terms of not using more of the fossil based fuel. So, it would help us in terms of minimizing or reducing the carbon equivalent reduction, carbon equivalent emission to the atmosphere. In the third lecture, in the fourth lecture, we discussed about the urban and other settlements. There we discussed about the requirement of understanding and integrated planning in terms of avoiding the carbon lock-in and also integrating a lot of blue-green infrastructure into this. And today in the fifth lecture, we talked about the transport sector, where we understood that if we do not manage it, then the emission from this sector will move from 15 to 50% in terms of emission. So, we cannot undermine addressing this sector as far as the mitigation is concerned. So, this sector, particularly the transport sector, we understand that we have different adaptation options in terms of low cost vehicles, in terms of moving to the LMV vehicles, electric vehicles and various fuels, but we still need lot of governance issues, lot of R&D issues, especially from large sectors including the shipping and the aviation or the air sector, including the land based heavy or long distance heavy duty trucks. So, all this at the bottom needs a transformation as far as the human mindset or the socio behavioral change or transformation is concerned. So, for that lot of information as far as the net zero needs to be shared, and the people should be educated so that in terms of the their daily life or in terms of informal way, we all can contribute towards this. So, this is a must, and we must understand what are the buzzwords around net zero, emission, carbon emission and emission in reduction, and more so what are the adaptation and mitigation pathways as far as the technology is concerned, behavioral, socio-behavioral practices as concerned, and also governance, economic and legal framework concerned. So, all this together will contribute towards mitigation of climate or will contribute towards mitigating the climate change impacts. Thank you very much.